Well, another bitterly disappointing Old Firm goes by, and to be honest, the only limelight you can kind of take for that game is the fact that the season's over and we get to get into the summer, see what happens, try and rebuild the squad again. But overall, I think the game in general was pretty scrappy. I don't think either team was at their best. A couple of moments of magic from each side, but I don't really feel, in terms of talking from a Rangers point of view, I don't really feel that we could get. Still, we couldn't see any sort of style of play or a solid game plan during that match. Although, to be fair, I say don't really see a solid game plan. I think Clermont, over the course of the 90 minutes, eventually got his tactics, pretty decent, but in the first half, I feel like they didn't have any sort of control over the game. I feel like the counter from Celtic was pretty easy. We were pressing man for man with the back four, although that left Callum McGregor in that midfield to be able to almost, do what he does and control the game. Where do we go for here? I don't know. The season's over. It's time for a clean out. It's time for a clean slate. If we're looking at individual performances, for the goal at the end, yes, there was a mistake from Scott Wright. There was a mistake from Jack Butland, and trust us, our best player of the season has that mistake in such an important game. Palms the ball out. I think it was Ida that puts the ball in the back of the net. It was a pretty gutting game, I think, because in previous, Old Firms, you almost kind of saw it coming. You kind of saw a defeat coming. We lose a couple of goals. You can see certain patterns leading up to our big mistakes, leading up to an inevitably conceding a goal. However, this game, it was so scrappy that it was a 50-50. I think either team could have won. Either team could have just nicked that goal, and I couldn't help but feel like at about just after half time, the 60-minute mark, that whoever got that one goal would probably go on to lift the Scottish Cup. Ultimately, I think when you compare this Old Firm to previous ones, I think we did have a bit more quality in there, but at the end of the day, we don't have the quality where we need it the most to get these kind of games over the line. To be honest, we did have the ball in the back of the net. Abdallah Sima with the knee at the back post, and somehow we end up with our disallowed goal in an Old Firm, even though Raskin had his hands on the back of Joe Hart. But also, Raskin had arms literally wrapped around his torso. So, for me, but we could sit here and talk about refereeing all we want. At the end of the day, it's over and done with. Going into the summer, as I said, the limelight is that clean slate. It's all eyes on who's going to be shown the door and who's going to be brought in to play important positions. As I've said before, I think it's time that the old guard moved on. I think it's time the likes of Lundstrom, Goldson, Tavernier's looked very quiet. The performances haven't been there, not only tonight, but in the past couple of games, including Old Firm games. And the thing about Tav is I'd be gutted to see him go, to be honest, because of the contribution he's had over the course of previous seasons. But, you can't really hang on to everyone forever. And with the amount of games that Tavernier's played, even though it hurts me to say it, he has... it looks like he's got to the stage where he's played that much over that many seasons that it almost looks like a bit of burnout, and I think it is time for him to move on. And I think this game overall pretty much sums up our season. Yes, we didn't almost replicate from games before. We went 1-0 down and then a quick 2-0 down before we clicked into gear. I think we had a decent showing of ourselves after, towards the later stages of the first half, going into the second half after the changes. Obviously, we brought a bit of pace on with Matondo. That directness, I think, helped us a wee bit, and also having Sima there as well with a bit of pace. It's something we've been missing all season. It's just been gutting that the both of them have been missing for so long. But at the end of the day, it doesn't excuse the fact that, yet again, towards the end of the game, we end up letting a daft, defensive mistake not necessarily in terms of the back four, but a daft defensive mistake up the park, and then it led to a defensive mistake in between the sticks. And as I says, it pretty much sums up the whole season in general. And in terms of individual performances, both keepers didn't really have much to do apart from that at the end from Butland that led to the goal. Also, as I says, I think Tavernier had a bit of a quiet game. The centre-back pair looked like they played pretty decent, looked fairly solid. As I said, there wasn't a lot for both sides to create loads of chances. I think when you look at Yilmaz as well, he seemed to be struggling a wee bit. He didn't quite seem himself, his pacey, direct self. I think in the middle of the park, Diamande, as he developed, I'm buzzing to see what he develops into. I think he was one of the most composed players on the pitch, even in tight positions, in control of the ball, keeping the ball moving. It was a joy to watch at times. Raskin also getting a wee bit more involved. It's better than the performances we've seen from him before, but yet again we kind of struggled at times to take control of that midfield. They seemed to be wide open at times. They seem to be missing, but we're just looking, I think going into the summer, we just need to look for that presence in there. We just need a bit of presence in the middle of the park and an ability to take control of the game a bit better. When you look up top as well, I think Silva looked like he was, getting stuck in a bit more. I think he learned his lesson from the likes of the last Old Firm, where it was all kind of rolling about the park, it was theatrics and that kind of stuff. He looked slightly more driven. I think in midfield, Cantwell was very frustrating to watch at times in terms of picking out passes and making the right decision. However, he kind of towards the end of the first half and the start of the second half looked to have kind of turned a corner and got himself involved in the right ways in the second half. Dessers again, but at the end of the day, only really got one chance. He managed to blast at the keeper, and I see the same every time. Only if we had a striker that was able to consistently put chances like that away, we would have been flying this season. And we go back to the winter window, and the fact that a lot of fans were saying literally if we get a prolific striker in there, the league will be ours. Sterling again in that team, the one with the most energy, the one with the most drive, the most flexible, the most adaptable. He's a player in that squad that over the course of the summer we absolutely need to build around. There's no doubt about it. A player that's that flexible and useful within the team. Obviously went off with a wee bit of a knock. Thankfully that's happened at the end of the season. Could we have used him on the pitch for the rest of the game? Absolutely we could have. But at the end of the day, the subs that come on, you did see, I wouldn't say they weren't ineffective. They made an impact in the game, but we just couldn't get that clear-cut opportunity. A lot of balls getting swung into the back post where no man was, and it's been allowed to slip through. Apart from that Sima disallowed goal, it was just one of those games, to be honest. And if you look over the course of the season, I think one trophy for us, considering the position we were in, where in reality we should have been shown the quality to go for a treble. It's pretty devastating. Yet again, another season where the cycle seems to continue. Getting to the business end of the season, not being able to get the job done, and every single Rangers fan, including myself, has got all eyes on that summer window to almost start a new era, starting a clean slate and break the cycle. Because at the end of the day, if we stick with what we've got, we stick with the players we've got, the spine of the squad, it's only a matter of time before the pressure starts to pile onto Clermont, and next Christmas we're going to be looking at the same situation as we were last Christmas. Now, there's only so much I can say about that game, and throughout the summer on the channel we want to keep that content flowing, and we look forward to the likes of transfer news, transfer rumours. I like a bit of rumours chat as well. Obviously we've got a Brazilian left back in the door to look forward to. He's been pulled in the door really early on, so he'll get a full pre-season, which is good. I like when we get our business done early, and obviously we're moving on to the Euros as well, which me and Kieran are hoping to do a bit of content around about that as well. We're not necessarily sticking to one team in the Euros. We want to try and cover the tournament as a whole. We'll not get every single game, but we're looking to try and cover the tournament in general, because obviously, you know, I'm a massive football fan, Kieran's a massive football fan. We just love watching football in general. So hopefully throughout the whole tournament of the Euros, you'll be able to join us and we can enjoy it together. What I want you to do is I want you to jump into the comments. I want you to let me know what you thought about today's game. I want you to let me know what you thought about the season as a whole. I want you to let me know what you thought about my opinions on the game. I love jumping into the chat and discussing these types of games with you. Remember, the Blue Sea Patreon is available. The link to that is down in the description next to our socials, and I'll see you next time.